Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel Saint Nightingale. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to do 4 things. 1. How to cut and sew a sweetheart neckline. 2. How to cut and sew a bustier pattern. 3. How to cut and sew a V-shaped bell sleeves. And 4. How to cut and sew a pleated scarf illusion on a skirt. So let's go. So like I always do on this channel, I would first of all place my pattern paper on the floor. I'm making use of a cardboard paper this time around because I just realized using my brown paper just sometimes doesn't slip properly on the fabric, hence the need for the cardboard paper. The other ritual that we do is when I go ahead to mark 1 inch upwards and on the side, just so that it just gives me like an understanding as to the areas that I'll be working with, and so I can create my own start line and not depend on the cardboard start line. So what I'm doing now is to mark my start line, my fresh start line that I'm going to be using for this pattern, and I'm doing that now. I will mark this upwards and towards the left side because I do not want to depend on that side. So I've marked that starting line using the acronym SL. I'm going to be doing the same for the left side of this paper. I'll just take out 1 inch away from that part and I'll use my ruler to connect the lines. After this, I went on to now begin creating my pattern, and the first thing for me was to create the shoulder to nipple measurement. For this style, the shoulder to nipple measurement I'll be working with is 11 inches. So from that start line downwards, I marked 11 inches across the paper, and I'll be using my ruler to connect the markings that I've made. After doing this, I went on to mark the next thing, which is the shoulder to underbust measurement. But bear in mind, I made use of the acronym SN to signify shoulder to nipple. So the next thing I'll be doing is the underbust measurement, which is 14 inches. So shoulder to underbust measurement is what I'm marking now. I'm marking 14 inches across this paper, and I'll be using my ruler again to connect the markings that I have made. And then the next thing after this is to mark the half length measurement, right? That's the shoulder to waist measurement. The shoulder to waist measurement for me is 18 inches. So I went on to mark 18 inches on the paper. I mean, this is a high waist measurement, and that's why I'm making it of 18 inches. The lowest measurement is 21 inches. I don't need that. I just need the high waist measurement, and that's what I'm marking. So 18 inches on the cardboard, and I'm marking this across. So I've been able to mark my starting line, as you can see in this video. I've marked my shoulder to nipple measurement, underbust measurement, and waistline measurement. So let's proceed to just creating a bodice, or the normal bodice template. So I went on to mark 3 inches upwards vertically and horizontally, and use my curve ruler to just create this dummy neckline. I won't be using this neckline, but just so that this kind of looks like a bodice. So I went on to also mark the shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches. On fold, that will give me 8 inches, and that's what I marked. And then I marked the armhole measurement as well, which is 8 inches downwards, and I just use my long ruler to connect the lines downwards. And I also proceed to just creating my armhole measurement as well, which is what I'm doing now. So I decided to extend this line this way because I will be shifting towards the right much later when I've drafted my bustier pattern as well as the shoulder flap. But just proceed, you understand what I'm doing. So let me just mark this. I won't eventually use this, but I just want to create this illusion of what I'm doing so that it just guides me in terms of what I'm doing. So I'm marking the shoulder slope as well. I've done that already. So now let's just proceed to getting the new start line that we're going to be working with for the sweetheart cut. So I mean, depending on the depth of what you're working with, the depth of what I'll be working with for the sweetheart cut is 8.5 inches, and then the upper depth that I'll be working with is 6.5 inches. That's how curve I want the sweetheart neck to be. So I've marked 6 inches, and that's that line I've drawn there. I'll just extend the line as well, because when I'm done with my bustier cut, I will still need to get more allowance for the closing, right? So that's 6 inch, and rather 6.5 inches, pardon me, that's 6.5 inches, and I've labeled that C1, cut 1. So I would now go further to mark 8.5 inches on that line, which is the depth of the sweetheart cut, how deep I want it to be. I will come back to that, but let's quickly draft the bustier cut, right? So the nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches divided by 2 will give me 3.5 inches, and that's what I'm marking on the lines that you can see on that C1 line, on the shoulder to nipple line, on the underbust line, and on the waistline. So I'll use my ruler to connect the markings that I have made on these lines. So after doing this, the next thing I'll do now is to create my bustier curve, right? I picked up my measuring tape and began to mark 1 inch inwards, as you can see, on the underbust line, on the waistline, and on that line that I called C1. Then on the outer line, I marked 1.5 inches on the waistline, underbust line, and on the C1 line. And that, there you have it. So I'm going to pick my curve ruler now and connect the lines. So from that C1 line, I'm going to draw a curve using the curve ruler to that SN line, and from the SN line, I'm going to also draw another curve to the UB line, and that's the curve. So I'm going to replicate this same thing as well on the left side of this pattern, right? So I'll flip the curve ruler again, ensure that it's well placed on the markings that I've made on the C1 line, which is 1.5 inches, and I'm going to just draw my curve. I'm going to do the same thing again for the for that part from the SN line to UB line, and just make sure that it curves on that line. Then I'm going to pick my short ruler and draw a straight line from the UB line to the WL line, just so that I can have that secured. So I've now done that. Now the next thing I'll be doing is to now create my other pattern, which is the sweetheart cut. So remember I had said that I've marked 8.5 inches, as you can see in the video. So I'm going to take 1.5 inches on that C1 line, mark it, and then I'll pick my curve ruler and create that sweetheart cut. So depending on how curved you want it to be, I'm going to use my ensure that my curve ruler captures the measurement that I've made on that line. So you can see me with my hand showing you what I'm doing, and then that's it. So that's the sweetheart neckline ready. The next thing I'm going to be doing now is to create a fresh shoulder part for this. So first off, I would take out my sewing allowance. So the sewing allowance for the shoulder measurement, remember I said the shoulder measurement is 6 inches, rather 8 inches, or 16 inches divided by 2 will give us 8 inches on fold. So I went on to add 2.5 inches to the 8 inches, which will give me 10.5 inches, and that's what I marked there, as also on that SL line, to create a fresh shoulder measurement. I went on to now go to the armhole side and mark the armhole measurement. So I'm creating a fresh armhole now, because I'm not going to make use of the one I'd created initially. So what I'm doing now is to just create a fresh armhole curve and armhole measurements based on the new measurements that we have now, bearing in mind the allowance from the bustier opening. So I'm cancelling that part so that you can better understand what I'm doing. So this is it. I'm now going to measure the bust measurement and waist measurement, but before that, let's create the new back measurement. So the wideness of the shoulder for me is 3 inches, so I went inwards and marked 3 inches on that line, and then went on to pick my short ruler to connect the line downwards so that I can have a fresh shoulder flap, and that's what I'm doing now. So I've drawn the straight line, and that's the line that I'll be working with now when I'm cutting this out. So let's just proceed to getting other parts of this pattern, right? So I would mark my bust measurement, which is 36.5 inches, bearing in mind the allowances that I have, I would divide that into two, will give me 9 inches, 9 and a quarter. Then I'll add initial 2.5 inches that was taken out from the bustier cut, as well as my sewing allowance, another 2 inches, which will give me a total of 4.5 inches addition to the initial bust measurement. I'm going to also do that for the waistline. The waistline measurement is 30.5 inches. Dividing that into two will give me 15 inches. So divide that again will give me about 7.5 or 7.75 inches. But eventually what I did across was to add 4.5 inches sewing allowance on the bust side and on the waist side, so eventually I have enough volume or enough fabric to work with. So we're done with that. I'll just use my ruler now and connect the lines from the armhole side, from the bust side downwards towards the waistline, and there you have it. So I would use my marker now to shade the areas that I'll be working with. I used my scissors to also trim out the pattern, and there you have it. So this is the pattern. Now let's move over to the pattern for the sleeves. Or rather, before I proceed to doing anything, I usually just sketch out the calculations. So the full length of the sleeves is 26.5 inches. I mean, when I measure the person's sleeves, the person has long arms, but then I want the sleeves to be the part that has the ankara to be 25 inches long. You see that curve that is flowing after that part that has 25 inches is where the lace attachment will be, and then the wideness of the V-shaped bell sleeves as well is going to be 26 inches wide. The part that will have, where the sharp A line would start from will be 17 inches from the shoulder downwards. And then when I eventually add the trimmings or the lace to the sleeves, from the first slope it will be 27 inches, and from the last slope it will be 30 inches for that. So that's the marking that I've done now. So just follow me now to see how I replicated this quick sketch on the pattern paper. So this is a pattern paper on the floor. I've added with the paper tape extra cardboard to this. I've also taken out my usual 1 inch above. What I'm doing now is to just secure the armhole curve, bearing in mind the armhole measurement that I'm working with. And the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to replicate the calculations that you had seen earlier on. So on the first marking I'll do is the 25 inches, bearing in mind that calculation that I showed you. So the next thing I also did was, from that start line down, was mark 17 inches, which is where the sharp curve will be starting from, and then I used my ruler to connect the lines, and then extended it to cover up the wideness of what I'll be working with, right? So I just marked that part, named it 17 inches so it's easy for me to identify, and use the arrow upwards. Then from that part I also went further to mark the full length measurement for the ankara, which is 28 inches. So I went on to mark with I don't know, the camera just didn't capture that part. I didn't know it wasn't a wide angle shot, so I just went on to mark 25 inches like I did there. I've done the one for the 17 inches, so this one now is the one for the 28 inches. Then I went on to also do the one for the 25 inches line. So I'm marking the straight line now, and I'll just write 25 inches there using the arrow upwards so I understand where that's facing. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to draw out that sharp A-line shape from that 17 inches part downwards to where I've marked the 28 inches. So it gives me that required V shape that I want, or the A shape that I want. So I'm just going to pick up my short ruler now and connect the lines, bearing in mind the markings, the wideness that I want to achieve for both that for the part that has the 17 inches and the part that has the 28 inches wideness. Remember, the 28 inches wideness is going to be 26 inches. Where the 28 inches has been marked would be as wide as 26 inches. So for the armhole, I went on to mark the armhole measurement and connected it to the lines where I have the 17 inches. So the last thing I'm going to be doing is to connect the sharp curve or sharp line from the 25 inches downwards to where I have the 28 inches. So I shaded off the part that I'll be working with, and I'm going to use my scissors now to trim out this pattern, right? So I'm just using my measuring tape to just ensure that all the markings that I've done are accurate. So the next thing is just to pick up the scissors and then trim out. I'm sure when I trim this out and push it upwards, you would see properly what I have done. So this is it. I mean, this is the pattern for the V-shaped bell sleeves. I am now going to place this on the fabric and trim out. So now let's go back to the upper bodice of this. So for me, I already on this part attached the wadding on the lining. So I'm not attaching the wadding directly on the fabric, not on the adire fabric. I attached it first on the bridal satin that I'll be using to line, because I don't want the layers to be very evident outwards when looking at the attire, which is why I did this. So the next thing I did was to place the stay on this and then iron it out using the steam iron. I went on to now trim out the excess on this. I did this for all the patterns for the front facing lining for this attire, while I used the paper stay to line the lining that I used to line the blouse or the upper part of the attire. So this is, I mean, what it looks like. I've already placed the adire fabric on the lining at this point, and so the next thing I'll be doing now is to cut. So I'm just opening this up so you see. So that's the adire lining, that's the interfacing that I'll be using for it. So this is the lining now, which is still the bridal satin, but it has been covered up with paper stay. So we'll go to the sewing machine now and join these parts together. But before we go to the sewing machine, let me also show you what the back pattern looks like. So the back pattern is the normal round pattern at the back. The armhole is there. I'm going to create a dart line following that part I just showed you with my hands, and then it's just as basic and as simple as this, nothing extra. The zip allowance is already there. I'm going to be lining as well with the bridal satin, just because I lined the front part with the bridal satin. I lined it with two piece of fabrics. I'm going to also be lining this with double lining. So let's just connect the front now. So this is the part that has the bustier cut and the sweetheart cut. I will just join ABC together. I'll just call it ABC, the middle part A and the other parts B and C. So I joined the three parts together. I also went on to do the same thing for the part that has the lining, join that part together, and then move on to other parts of the pattern. So afterwards, the next thing I did was to join the shoulder flap for the front part. I also doubled the lining. So I have the adire, the bridal satin, and the second bridal satin for lining. And I just went on to sew this down so that it secures properly on the part that is the lining, and when I iron this out, it just sits properly. I also trimmed out the excess that you can see before I placed on the fabric. So let's do the back, right? So I placed the adire on the lining and placed the other lining on it so that the shiny face is going to be facing outwards when I'm done. I pinned this down with my bobbin pin, and I'll just proceed to securing this now with the sewing machine. Sewing this all the way through. So this is done now. Let's just also do the same thing for the skirts. Join the sides and flip over, iron out on the ironing board before we now begin the pleated scarf illusion on the skirt part. So let's just join the lining. Alright, so I'm done with the skirt part. I'm back to the upper part. And what I'm trying to do now is to insert the breast cup at that point. So the first thing I did was to properly get the shoulder to the underbust measurements markings again. And then I used the needle and thread to secure it on the allowance so that it doesn't show on the outside or the outer part of the fabric. And I also did this for the left and the right side. Then for the center part, I joined it together with the needle and thread as well and picked it on the lining. Made sure that this wasn't showing on the outer part of the fabric, so it's picked on the wadding and on the bridal satin, but didn't touch the adire fabric outside. Some persons decide to use hemming stay to glue this on the fabric. Some persons decide to use the normal fabric glue, but this is my own method. You can explore all of these options available to you. So we're done with this now. The next thing I'm going to be doing now is to connect the shoulder flap to this part of, to the upper part of the pattern, and then cover it up with the lining. So just for quality checks, I went on to mark the shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches on that part, and also placed the shoulder flap there so that it captures the accurate measurement. But when placing it, I ensured that I had half an inch allowance on both sides, so it also covers my sewing allowance by the time I sew the sleeves on this part. So quickly, let's just join that part together, and so we can have the proper sweetheart cut. So I'm sewing this down now on that part. I would now use the scissors to open up that part so that the V shape there sits properly and there is no bulge of any sort. So I'll go to the ironing board now and use the hemming stay or hemming glue to glue that part down. The adire parts or the fabric, the main fabric and the lining, to make that part as flat as possible, and so that the lining is not showing on the outwards part. So that's pretty much what I just did to secure that part. So we're done with this now. The next thing is to now join the sides together. I didn't join the sides yet. I decided to iron that upper part first before joining the sides, so it's easy for me to iron out. So I'm joining the sides now, and afterwards I'm now going to join the back pattern or panel with the front panel. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing the darts. So the dart also follows the nipple to nipple measurement in front, which is 3.5 inches, bearing in mind the zip allowance 1.5 inches. So I ended up with this measurement that you can see now for the dart measurement. So I've secured the dart measurements at that point. The next thing I'm also going to be doing now is to join the shoulder together, so the front and the back panel facing each other on the left and on the right side. So after joining that, I went on to join the sides as well, bearing in mind the bust measurement and waist measurement, which is 36.5 inches and 30.5 inches. So I marked that on the fabric and then just sewed it down to join together, and that's what I'm doing now. Alright, so let's work on the sleeves. I removed the pattern paper from the sleeves, and I will just join the tip of this sleeve. So I placed this so that the shiny face also shows outwards, and I just joined both sides, both sleeves at this point. So I've joined the tip, I'm joining the upper part now. Do this for the left and for the right side. Take it to the ironing board, iron out, and then begin the installation for the trimmings or for the lace edges or the lacy edges. So this is the lace that I'm going to be using. I've trimmed it out from the actual lace. I bought 1 yard of lace from the market that had this very nice edge, and I'm going to make use of that. So on the ironing board, I marked 6 inches on that corner, 3.5 inches on the center point, and I marked another 6 inches on the extreme left. So I'm going to be using the ruler now to connect the lines on this. So this line that you can see now is where the lace will be sewn on. So let's go to the sewing machine now. So I flip the lace this way so that when I turn it back, the right side will be showing. So I'm going to sew 1/2 inch measurement on this part of the lace, right? And I'm going to be doing this for both parts of the sleeves. Some of you might ask me what's the measurement that I made use of for the lace. I made use of 6.5 inches. The 1/2 inches is the allowance that I have just sewn on now. So flipping it over now, I'm now going to sew this on the tip of the Ankara, or rather of the Adire fabric. So I'm just sewing the tip now, following that sharp cut that I had, or the V-shape cut that I had earlier. I'll do this for both part of the sleeves and then just trim out the excess on both sides. You may also want to make use of your pins to just secure the lace on the Ankara fabric so it doesn't shift and it's as smooth as possible when you're done sewing. So we're done with this now. The next thing for me is to just trim out the excess lace on both sides and proceed to join this on the upper body of our style or our dress. So first off, I'm on the ironing board now, and I'm going to be showing you the pattern that I would, or the line that I'm going to be sewing on to achieve the V-shaped bell sleeves, right? So first off, I went on to secure the armhole measurements on this sleeves, on the sleeves pattern I have. On this fold, I folded it to ensure that all the lines are aligning properly and seated, or rather laying well. So like I said, I measured the armhole measurement for this pattern, and that's what I'm doing now at this point. After measuring that, I went on to check the excess. So I have 3 inches excess, right? So I went on to mark that point where I have the sharp curve. Remember, on the brown paper it's 17 inches. So because of the armhole part that has been taken out from this, it will give me 15 inches. So I've taken out on that stretch, that's 15 inches, but wideness, the excess that I won't be working with is 3 inches. So I went on to draw that sharp curve now that you can see to the tip of the lace, and that's the V-shaped bell sleeves that you have. So I'm going to go back to the sewing machine now, and then I will just sew on that line. I've done this markings for the left and for the right side, so what I'll be doing now is to just sew this pattern on, or rather sew across the chalk marking that I have done. So this is what our sleeves looks like without attaching it yet on the main body. You can see that point where the sharp curve starts from. So it gives it that A-line shape or V-line shape, right? So we're done with this now. The next thing I'll be doing now is to connect the sleeves to the upper part of the dress. So let's go. So I'm sewing this now. I'm sewing the sleeves now to the upper part of the dress. So now let's proceed to the pleated scarf illusion for the skirt part. So the waist to the hip line for me is 9 inches, but I took out 2 inches upwards, right? You can see that's 9 inches. Downwards I'm going by 3 inches. which is where the pleat will stop on that part. So let's move to the left side. I'm going to be taking my pleats from 7 inches, so that's 2 inches upwards from where the hip line is, but downwards from where the hip line is, I'm going downwards by 8 inches, right? So that from that point it slants all the way to the marking that I've done. So that's 8 inches that I've marked from the hip line downwards, right? And we're done. So let's now begin pleating the fabric on this skirt, following the markings that you can see extended outwards. So this is the piece of fabric. I folded it, and I'm going to be using my bobbin pins to secure it on the left side and on the right side. So you just do this gently. I'm making use of about 1.5 inches pleat allowance. I'm pleating freehand though, but I'm making this markings in my head as I'm pleating this. You could decide to use your measuring tape to pleat as you proceed, but I mean, it's very easy to just use your hand to just keep pleating. I mean, once you are pleating, you can use your eye to just see through to be sure, oh, am I pleating correctly, is it aligning properly, and then you're good to go. Also, because this piece of fabric was joined on different layers, I didn't have enough fabrics to work with, so I had to make use of different pieces, and I joined together on a straight strip. And that's why I was being cautious as well as how I was splitting this, so that the part that has been joined together is not seen to the public eye, right? And eventually this turned out well. I mean, I was able to conceal all the lines properly so that it doesn't show out to anyone who's looking at the dress. So I'm done now. I'll just fold that part in and then use the pin as well to secure that part. So up next, we're going to be ironing this out. I use a steam iron to just press. And what I also did was to use the hemming glue to close the tip of that part. So up and down, I open it up and then I used the hemming glue to just close that part up. So that's the only part I used the hemming glue for. I also went upwards as well to do that. Then I used the scissors to just trim out the excess on the sides so that I can join the front and the back together. I've just used the hemming glue again for the upper part, and we're done. So the next thing is just to use the scissors now to trim out the excess. So when trimming, I'll just ensure that you're not trimming out the main fabric. I pushed the pins as well inwards so it doesn't obstruct the cutting process, right? So it's as easy as possible. So just trim out the excess and then go back to the machine to join. But let me show you what the upper part looks like without the skirt joining. So this is it. This is the upper part of the dress. You can see the sleeves, you can see the bustier, you can see the sweetheart cut. So let's now join the front and the back together. So I'm also bearing in mind the waist measurement and the hip measurement. The waist measurement 30.5 inches, hip measurement 42.5 inches, and the round knee measurement that I worked with is 34 inches. So I'm just sewing this downwards, and I will do that for the other side. And then once I'm done with this, I'll join the upper body and the lower body together. So if you watched this far and you enjoyed what you are seeing, do not forget to click on that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up so that I can know that you're enjoying this content. So let's proceed. Before joining the upper body to the lower body, I just sewed on a straight line, so it guides me as to what to do when I place this eventually on the lower body of the design. So what I'm doing now is to just join the upper body and the lower body together before proceeding to inserting the zip. Alright, so let's join the zip now quickly. We're done joining the zip now, and I'm going to show you how it just aligns properly. And this is it. You can see the That's, you can also see that the zip line is, on the same line as well. So I'll just wear this on the mannequin so you can see the final look of this our beautiful sweetheart neckline with the bustier pattern, V-shaped bell sleeves, and pleated scarf illusion on a skirt. Let's go. And here we go. I hope you enjoyed watching this content as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you have any questions for me, you can leave them down below in the comment section, and I will be ready to take your questions from you. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time for you to click on that subscribe button. It will make me happy. I would also drop links to other tutorial videos like how to cut a bustier pattern, how to sew structured sleeves, how to also sew puff baby sleeves. I'll just leave all these links for you so that you can click and keep learning. Like I always say, keep creating magic. From me to you, it's bye bye. It's Saint Nightingale.